Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating topic. I mean, we all know that person, right? That relentless gym goer who literally carries a gallon water jug everywhere they go. They're hitting the gym when they're totally exhausted, when their schedule's completely packed, and even when their body's just begging for a break. From the outside looking in, it paints this picture of incredible, almost superhuman discipline. But what if the psychology behind all this relentless drive isn't actually about a pure love for exercise? Let's dive into it, because what's happening beneath the surface here is incredibly complex. So this brings us to the central question of our explainer today. If you are genuinely disciplined, why on earth would resting for just one day make you feel so guilty? It's a massive paradox, right? As you'll see by the end of this, for a lot of these folks, refusing to rest isn't actually about proving their strength at all. It really reveals a profound psychological inability to stop. They don't just exercise every day. They feel intensely, deeply uncomfortable when they don't. And to understand exactly why that is, we've got to start by peeling back the layers between what people do and why they're actually doing it. Which brings us to part one, the illusion of discipline. You see, there is a stark contrast between the physical reality and the psychological one. On the outside, yeah, we see extreme discipline. It looks like pure grit, hard work, and dedication. But internally, what might actually be happening is a deep psychological discomfort with stopping. For these individuals, the hardest part of their day isn't the heavy lifting. It's not the intense cardio. It's literally the thought of doing absolutely nothing. That behavior that looks like the ultimate discipline is often driven by something completely different, and honestly, sometimes much more anxious on the inside. And this brings us to a major psychological trigger: identity. The brain may not actually be chasing exercise anymore. It might be aggressively protecting an identity. For some people, working out isn't just an activity on their calendar. It's who they believe they are. Think about it. I'm the disciplined one. I never miss a workout. When a behavior anchors your identity that deeply, stopping feels incredibly personal. Missing a single workout isn't just skipping a day at the gym. Their brain literally interprets it as, oh no, I am becoming lazy. So if identity is one big anchor, what are the others? Well, let's explore how our deep human needs for control and self-worth can make a simple rest day feel so emotionally challenging. Moving on to part two, identity, control, and worth. Training provides this incredibly comforting sense of structure. Think about the illusion of control it gives you. You get a completely predictable schedule, you have measurable goals, and countable metrics. You can so easily track your reps, your distance, your time. For a mind that naturally craves order in an otherwise chaotic world, this level of predictability makes exercise incredibly rewarding psychologically. It creates this very comforting illusion of having total control over your day and your body. But then we introduce rest into the equation. While training feels highly productive, resting feels completely uncertain. There's absolutely nothing obvious to achieve on a rest day. For someone who relies heavily on exercise just to maintain their sense of control, sitting around doing nothing isn't relaxing at all. It's agonizing. So what happens? They end up training not because their body physically needs another workout, but simply because training is the only way they know how to feel in control of their day. And this leads us straight into a major cognitive trap: black and white thinking. An immature mindset generally believes that more is always better. It's that idea of, if I train, I progress. If I don't, I lose progress. There's just no middle ground. But a psychologically mature mindset understands that more is only useful when it actually serves the goal. Your body isn't a machine. The training provides the stimulus, sure, but the recovery is what actually allows your body to adapt and grow. Pushing harder just isn't always the smartest choice. So why is it so incredibly hard to adopt that mature mindset? Let's look at the specific mental traps and social factors that keep this relentless loop spinning. Let's dive into part three, the progress and momentum trap. As humans, we naturally crave evidence that our effort is actually working, right? And exercise creates this immediate, deeply satisfying reward loop. Step one, you train. Step two, you feel productive. Step three, you feel accomplished. Step four, you naturally want to repeat the behavior. Every single completed session reinforces the feeling that you are moving forward. But the trap snaps shut when the brain falsely equates no workout to no progress. Intellectually, the person might totally know recovery is important, but emotionally, they feel like they're just sitting there wasting time. A perfect example of this is the intense fear of losing momentum. Just imagine you've trained for 10 days, then 20, then a whopping 50 days in a row. Suddenly, the number itself becomes the goal. The workout totally transforms into a streak. And humans are so deeply sensitive to losing things we've accumulated. The overriding thought becomes, man, if I stop today, I'm going to lose all my momentum. The brain makes that momentum feel incredibly fragile, and it creates this massive fear of missing even a single day. Compounding all of this internal pressure is, of course, social media, which acts as a massive accelerant. What we see online is always highly curated, right? Workouts, intense streaks, endless no days off hashtags. But what remains totally hidden is the reality, the stress, the lack of sleep, and the completely unique physical needs of that individual person. Comparing your own routine to someone else's visible effort creates a totally unrealistic psychological benchmark. You might literally find yourself adding another grueling session to your week simply because someone else posted a sweaty selfie at 5 a.m. And this leads us to the deepest and honestly most dangerous trap of all. When exercise moves from being a healthy part of life toward becoming a direct measurement of personal worth. Some people don't just want to improve. They literally need that improvement to feel good about themselves. If they perform well, they're successful. If they miss a session, they're profoundly disappointed in themselves. Their actual value as a person becomes dependent on how many days they trained. And wow, that is a really heavy psychological burden to carry. So how do we break free from this trap? Well, we need to fundamentally shift our perspective on what true strength actually means. Which takes us to part 4, redefining true discipline. We so often get the definition of discipline entirely wrong. We think it just means never stop or always push harder. But pushing blindly without any self-awareness, that isn't discipline, that's just rigidity. True discipline is actually about understanding your goal and adjusting your behavior intelligently to serve it. Sure, sometimes the discipline choice absolutely is hitting the gym, but sometimes the discipline choice is resting. Sometimes it's having the guts to admit you are exhausted instead of just pretending you're invincible. This brings us to a truly fascinating reality. I want you to imagine two people doing the exact same workout. They're lifting the exact same weights, running the exact same miles. From the outside, they look identical. But internally, their drivers are miles apart. One person is thinking, man, I love this. The other is practically panicking, thinking, I cannot afford to stop. One is driven by genuine enjoyment and a healthy routine. The other is totally trapped by fear, perfectionism, and this desperate need for control. The outward behavior is exactly the same, but the internal psychology is completely different. Ultimately, the healthiest approach isn't about constantly proving you can train every single day. It's about knowing exactly when to push and knowing exactly when to recover. That right there is the hallmark of a confident, balanced, and truly disciplined mindset. It's not about being afraid to rest. It's having the confidence to know that one single recovery day isn't going to erase everything you've worked so hard to build. It's ensuring your routine actually supports your long-term well-being instead of slowly eroding it. So, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. The very next time you see someone who never, ever takes a rest day, someone who pushes themselves relentlessly regardless of how they physically feel, don't just default to thinking, wow, that's incredible discipline. Instead, pause for a second and ask yourself, what does this person believe will happen if they stop? Because honestly, the answer to that question reveals far more about their mind than their workout ever could. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.